Friends, about a week ago, we had publicly shared documents and information we received through RTI on the income support that was promised last year during the first lockdown from two schemes. One, the Chief Minister's Relief Against Wage Loss, CRAWL in short, and the BOCW, which is Labour who register themselves with the Labour Department, were to get 5,000 rupees. And we shared this publicly and also asked people to check for their names on that list which was provided by the government. Now, it is shocking because in this past 1 week, we have been able to further collect information and evidence which points to gross negligence and abuse of power by this government. It is shocking because we had also, before the RTI, done a physical survey with our hawker friends. We talked to about 735 hawkers, out of which 238 had registered to get this income support. Now, out of this 238, 38 only got 2,100 rupees, which was promised. 44 got 1,400, 23 got 700, and a shocking 158 got nothing. We also now have collected lists from our Domestic Workers Association, from taxi drivers, various shnongs from West Khas Hills, Garo Hills, Jaintia Hills have sent us lists because the shnongs were also asked to collect names. So people actually stood in line and the localities tried very hard to send in these lists for this income support for those who need it the most. And further phone calls have come in, SMSs, WhatsApp, after we put out the lists. And when we collate all of this information and done a statistical evaluation of all this data, what we find is that 40% of those who registered, the government had said that they got 2 lakh plus applications, out of which they provided supposedly to 1 lakh plus people this income support of either 2,100 or 5,000. But our survey and our analysis shows that 40% of the 1,35,000 plus people did not get anything. 25% got 2,100 or 5,000, 20% got 1,400, and 15% got 700. Which means that there's a whole chunk of money missing. We find that there are lots of ghost phone numbers, ghost names, wrong locations, all of this pointing to the fact that either there was deliberate attempt to create all this fake information, or as I said, there was gross and criminal negligence. And the BOCW scheme is even more shocking because this promises 5,000 to people who are already registered with the Labour Department. Now, they weren't even required to apply again. It was supposed to be an automatic transfer of 5,000 rupees. But you will find, especially in that list, that there were these made-up phone numbers. There were some repeated phone numbers for a number of applicants. And last time we saw that the government, instead of trying to respond and reply to people's queries on these two income support schemes which were promised last year, they instead went on the defensive and even tried to say that labourers who have not renewed their applications under the BOCW would not get the support. It is quite sad because actually when the pandemic broke out, many states clearly said that even for those who have failed to renew their registrations, it doesn't matter, they were giving them an income support because that was the least of their worries during a pandemic, and they wanted to be inclusive and reach as many people who were being badly affected by the pandemic. And here in Meghalaya, we have people making excuses that if you hadn't registered a 60 rupee renewal a year, then you will not be getting this support. So that was really sad, and it was used as an excuse to not provide this money. And we even made calls to Garo Hills, okay, from that list. And out of 10 calls we made, only one person had received this promised 5,000 rupees. So you can imagine the extent of the mismanagement and corruption that has taken place. Now, there were also people who called us and sent us messages saying that they have got money, some 1,400, some 700, some the full amount. And we cross-checked these names and found that their names did not appear on the list. So now how could this be? So these are questions which the government has to reply to. And it's really sad because people actually put their documents together, their EPIC, their bank account details, and some who didn't even have bank accounts said that we went, stood in line, opened a bank account, spent 500 rupees to open a new bank account, and even after that kept visiting the bank to see if this money has come. And they said that we had almost embarrassed to know that we only still have 500 rupees, and we feel embarrassed because the people in the bank are fed up of us inquiring about this money. So now the government, what is it doing in effect, is actually victimizing again those people who are marginalized and who actually really needed this support at a time when they were in the most grave difficulty of a pandemic. So the other thing which happened when we put out this list was people called us and they said that we have job cards, so perhaps we were not to get this entitlement, which is true because as per that notification, those who have job cards or who are muster roll and casual workers of the government were not entitled. And the ones from BOCW were entitled under BOCW. Now, the thing is, even people with job cards called us and said that the whole year last year, there was no work happening under the NREGA. And hence, there were no transfers, of wages. So how were they supposed to deal with income loss in a pandemic? And even people who are secretaries of VACs and Rangbashnams of different darbars also called us, telling us this about the difficulty with the job card and the NREG. Then there were people who also talked about ration cards. They see the government is promising us free rations when what we ought to be getting even through our ration cards we don't get. So all of these things, including another scheme which is this PM Kisan, even what they were entitled to get through this, they have not received. And just recently, during this latest lockdown, we saw how the farmers have been struggling, bringing their produce from far, hoping to sell it for something to at least meet the expenses of transportation and to have something to take back home. And it seems that there's a total collapse of the system. And this collapse is not that it's just happened now because of the pandemic. It's just that the pandemic has revealed a systemic failure which has accumulated and has gotten worse and worse over years. And it is time that we question, these failing structures. We question a failing bureaucracy, a failing political class. And this time around, this RTI, people coming together to verify, it has been an empowering moment, and we should use this as a beginning of further questioning every other aspect of governance. There's total failure, and it is incumbent on us to ensure that we use this time as a renewal to change the way things are happening, to question, to speak truth to power. Because MLAs or representatives have this habit of just, giving money to people or giving few kilos of rice in a time of distress. But we need to ask, where is that money coming from? Is it always mine? And are you giving me just half of what I should be getting? Because these are not gifts or tokens. It's not theirs to gift when they feel like it. It is our right and our entitlement which we should take, and take it in full. But there is this culture that has been created that we should not be questioning, that we should not, challenge people in power. And this has to change. And that's why in this complaint, 1,400 pages of it, we have also demanded that immediately the money which is owed to all those people who have applied and whose names appear has to be released within a week. The ones who have not been paid in full. And the ones who had applied but whose names do not feature in that list also need an answer. If they meet the criteria, if they have submitted all the relevant documents, why should they not be getting this income support? So those answers have to be given by the government within a week. And now in the second wave of the pandemic, it is even more difficult. There are mounting deaths from last year. People are actually on the brink of hunger, and yet the government has not even made an attempt to announce an income support. So we demand that for this period of lockdown, which is likely to extend, the government has to ensure that daily wage earners, which includes hawkers, taxi drivers, domestic workers, shop assistants, all people who work, in the day and feed themselves at night, have to be supported by the government. This is incumbent, and it is the responsibility of the government to do this.